Hello, third graders. We are continuing to read The Puppy Place, and we are on page 84, and we're starting almost at the bottom of the page, the next to the last paragraph, page 84. Well, we did our best, and then I guess they took over. If they want to be friends, who are we to stop them? Steve said. Nothing ever seemed to upset him. Now, are you ready to help me get supper? Charles jumped up. Sure, he said. His only regular chores at home were setting the table and clearing the table. He and Lizzie traded days on that. He didn't usually help to make dinner, but why not? If Steve thought he could, Charles was ready to give it a try. At home, Charles was just a kid. Here at Steve's, he felt like one of the guys. Wash your hands, said Steve. Then maybe the first thing you should do is get another bottle of formula mixed up. Seems like this lamb gets hungry every couple hours or so. We might as well be ready. Steve was right. No sooner had Charles finished getting the bottle ready than Fluffy started to bleat. I'll feed him this time, said Dad. He sat down on the couch and Fluffy leapt right into his lap. Whoa, Dad looked surprised. Then he gave Fluffy a hug. This guy learned fast, didn't he? Charles gave Dad the bottle and Fluffy began to drink. That's right, fella, said Dad. Drink up. Charles watched, smiling. Dad had the same happy, dreamy look on his face that he got when he was holding a human baby. Dad loved babies. Charles went back into the kitchen and Steve put him to work peeling potatoes. The peeler's sharp, he said, so watch your fingers. At home, Mom didn't usually let Charles use sharp knives or peelers on his own. Charles picked up the peeler and swiped it along the potato the way Steve had shown him, being careful to keep his fingertips out of the way. It wasn't hard at all. Now we slice them real nice and thin, said Steve. He demonstrated for Charles, then handed him a long knife. Charles glanced at Dad, but Dad was still staring down at Fluffy with that goofy look on his face. He shrugged and began to slice. Before long, he'd sliced up 8 potatoes. Nicely done, said Steve, who was busy mixing up meatloaf. Now we lay them in this baking dish, one partly on top of the meat, so they look kind of like fish scales. Charles was getting the hang of this cooking thing. It was easy and a lot of fun. He laid out the potatoes and added salt, pepper, butter, and milk the way Steve told him to. Then they popped the pan into the oven that Steve had preheated. That's it, said Steve, giving Charles a high five. You just made scalloped potatoes the way my grandma taught me to when I was your age. Charles grinned. He looked over at Dad and saw that his father was snoring, with his head drooping over the sleeping lamb nestled on his lap. Freckles lay at Dad's feet, also snoozing. Charles put his hand over his mouth to quiet his laughter, then tugged on Steve's sleeve and pointed. The best part about helping to make dinner was sitting down to eat it. It was just about the most delicious dinner Charles had ever had, and Dad couldn't stop talking about how great the scalloped potatoes were. Charles didn't even mind helping to clean up afterward. Everything seemed like fun here at Steve's cabin. He was secretly glad that the snowstorm had come. This was so much cozier than another night at the inn. After they cleaned up, Steve suggested they take Freckles out for a walk before bedtime. Wouldn't want the pup to wander off in this storm, he said as he snapped on a leash. Fluffy woke up and wanted to come along, but Dad held on to the lamb and Steve and Charles stepped outside. Wow, said Charles when he saw how deep the snow already was. It came up over his boots as soon as he stepped out of the mudroom. I know, said Steve, and it's still coming down hard. I think we might be caring for Fluffy for longer than we thought. I doubt anybody's going anywhere tomorrow. Okay, boys and girls, we're going to stop right there, and tomorrow we'll start on page 89. I think we'll be finishing this book in the next couple of days. Thanks so much for listening.